endless negotiations back and forth. If the UAW workers choose to go on strike and vote in behalf of the union, they want all those benefits. They want their piece of the profits. They've seen record profits for GM and Stellantis over the past few years. They also see this transition to EV, and they're worried, just like a lot of other industries, about this transition to new technologies, what that's going to mean for their jobs going forward.
What does it mean for the car makers if these workers do authorize a strike?
Yeah, strikes are pretty painful for car makers. Back in 2019, GM faced a 40-day strike, cost almost $10 billion or so, $3.6 billion, I should say. So there's estimates. If this goes on for something like 10 days, it could cost $5 billion to the automakers. But then there's the ripple effect, Callie. The suppliers, the steel makers, the paint makers, all the people involved in the auto industry, a strike could be debilitating across the industry.
Have you ever seen a strike like this before? When was the last time that all the sort of three car makers were affected by something like this?
It's rare that you see the UAW target all three, the big U.S. automakers. This is the first time we've really seen that. Usually it's one at a time. Every 4 years, though, they go through this master agreement process to try to reach a deal, and then it kind of varies automaker to automaker. We're right now at the very tip here, at the very edge of what could be a pretty debilitating strike.
Well, let me ask you what it means, because anybody who's thought about buying a car, like a new car lately, knows those price tags are sky high. At least they feel like it. What's the consumer impact of a strike happening?
Think about it. No new supply, no new cars coming to market, less supply, already high prices and very high financing rates. Prices are likely going to go up.
Caleb Silver, great to see you. Thank you. We'll see how this goes. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it'd be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our foreign desk has done it for you. Here are some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Russia, a court in Moscow is extending the detention of Evan Gershkovich, that Wall Street Journal journalist, by 3 months. He's been jailed in Russia on spy charges since March. The U.S. has declared him wrongfully detained. The Journal calls this development deeply disappointing and says Gershkovich's attorneys will appeal. Out of the UK, hospital services there on pause today, offering only coverage for emergency care. That's because thousands of doctors are striking for 48 hours. They want more money. The British Medical Association says its members plan to do this again next month and the month after if the government doesn't start to negotiate. And out of India and the moon, remember the craft that landed on the South Pole of the moon yesterday? Well, now its rover is taking a moonwalk. It's going to roam around. It's going to do some experiments there for the next couple of weeks. India is the first country to have successfully landed something on the South Pole of the moon. That's super important because there's ice there, so that water could potentially mean more missions to come. Still to come here on this show. This is a live pic of where President Trump is expected to land in Atlanta sometime in the next little bit. He will surrender as part of the fourth criminal case brought against him just this year. We're going to take you there live coming up.
News lives in the now. It's coming at us every second from all over the world. We have a full team. News is more now than ever.
To surrender in his fourth arrest in the last 5 months. You're taking a live look at where he will be landing. The weather has pushed timing back a little bit. The former president had said he expected to be booked right around 7:30 p.m. It is 6:55 Eastern. Remember, he is heading now to the Fulton County Jail on charges that he tried to break the law in a push to try to overturn the legitimate results of Georgia's 2020 election. Remember, there was no evidence of widespread fraud in that state. Gabe Gutierrez and Vaughn Hilliard are both live for us on the ground in Atlanta. Gabe, I want to start with you and a sense of what it's like on the ground. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the former president's closest allies, has shown up there. We know his attorney is on the ground, his new attorney in Atlanta, too. Talk us through it.
Hey there, Hallie. Well, yes, we're here right outside of the Fulton County Jail. Let me set the scene for you. Several dozen, I guess, maybe several hundred, at least more than 100 of former President Trump's supporters have shown up here. Some have been here really throughout the day. And the sheriff's deputies here had put up extra barricades here just to, as a precaution throughout the day. So many members of the media had been gathered here. And now, as we're getting closer to the hour when former president is expected to surrender, you can see, how many people here have gathered. I've been speaking with some of them. One woman behind me drove here, Hallie, 4 hours from Nashville. She made a decision to come here at 9 a.m. this morning. And what we've been hearing from some of these protesters is that they just do not buy the charges against the former president. They think that this is political, and they're sticking by him no matter what at this point. And Hallie, I spoke with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who showed up here just a few moments ago, obviously acting as a surrogate for Donald Trump. Here's some of my conversation with her.
This is a witch hunt, and it shouldn't be happening. We are going to be launching an investigation into Fani Willis on the Judiciary Committee, and we're going to be looking at the collusion between the federal government and the Department of Justice and the state DAs.
How quickly should this trial happen?
It shouldn't happen at all.
Is this rhetoric dangerous?
Absolutely not.
So, Hallie, that was some of my conversation with Marjorie Taylor Greene, not backing down, defiant, saying this trial should never have happened in the first place. You see many of former President Trump's supporters here again. We're expecting the former president to come here. Timing pushed back, as you said, because of weather. He was late leaving New Jersey, but we expect him to get fingerprinted here. Still an open question whether we will see that mugshot, but we have been seeing those mugshots from his co-defendants that have been coming here throughout the past several days. Mark Meadows, of course, we got his mugshot a little earlier today. He's out on $100,000 bail. The former president set to get a $200,000 bail again when he arrives here, right in prime time, Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez right in the thick of it. Vaughn Hilliard is also live for us in Atlanta, and we know that the former president is already previewing he's going to be out over on Newsmax tonight, presumably talking about the moment.
Right, I'm told by the campaign that he will be engaging in that in a conversation with a host from that right-wing outlet live after his formal booking here. This is going to be the beginning of Donald Trump's Georgia journey, not the political one, but the legal one. We expect that he is going to go through the normal booking process for any defendant. That's what the sheriff has said here in Fulton County. We expect that to include fingerprinting and potentially a mugshot. Secret Service has been keen on working with local authorities in other jurisdictions around his other 3 indictments to ensure that there are security protocols to keep the former president and leading frontrunner for the GOP nomination here in 2024 safe. Just as an anecdote, Hallie, I was told by one gentleman who walked out of the jail yesterday after being inside for multiple days on a suspended license that he was inside of, as he referred to it, the slammer with 40 other individuals when Rudy Giuliani walked by during his formal processing yesterday. So I think there's a lot of questions as to exactly what path Donald Trump will actually take once he arrives, but we expect him to land here in Atlanta any minute from now. He will then head from the airport en route to the jail just a few miles away for that process to begin, and then ultimately it'll be up to his defense counsel. He brought on a new lead attorney just today to begin to build his defense to take before a jury.
Vaughn Hilliard live for us in Atlanta. Vaughn, thank you. Our thanks to all of our team members, of course, who have been out there as we are seeing a plane, not sure if it's his plane, coming in for landing. We're going to have so much more coverage here tonight on NBC News Now, including special coverage. I'll be joined by my friend and colleague Tom Llamas a little bit later on. We'll have the biggest moments from what will be an evening that makes history. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. For now, Top Story picks it up as we speak.
President Trump surrendering to authorities in prime time. Trump making his way to Atlanta, where he's facing 13 criminal counts for his efforts to overturn the election. The Fulton County Jail on lockdown as a former commander-in-chief turns himself in to get booked. Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, surrendering late today, now out on bond. We're at the jailhouse with full coverage. The other major political headline, the fiery Republican showdown in Milwaukee. Trump skipping the debate, but his specter looming large. What his GOP rivals had to say about Trump's impending trials and who landed the punches that pundits are still talking about tonight. Breaking news out of Hawaii, Maui County now suing Hawaiian Electric in the wake of the deadliest natural disaster in the state's history, while they are claiming the power company failed to heed warning signs. Prigozhin presumed dead. New details emerging after that stunning plane crash in Russia. On surrender watch at this hour as former President Donald Trump prepares to turn himself in to authorities in Fulton County, Georgia, where he has been charged for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. This is a live look right now at Atlanta's Hartsfield Airport, where Trump is expected to land at any moment. We have cameras spread out all across Atlanta tonight. This is just outside the jailhouse here as both supporters and demonstrators are lining up and a whole lot of media. And this is an aerial shot right now from our affiliate WXIA that is in the air with their chopper as the former president's plane is about to land there in Atlanta. From what we know, it's about a 30-minute drive from the airport to the Fulton County Courthouse and to the jail. We'll be bringing you every single moment as it happens. Earlier, just about 2.5 hours ago, his motorcade leaving Bedminster, New Jersey Golf Club late this afternoon, cameras following his every move. This type of choreography is something we have seen 3 times before as Trump was arraigned in 3 other criminal cases. But a few key differences about tonight's processing, right? Number one, the setting. Trump turning himself in at the Fulton County Jail, a far cry from the federal courthouses Trump has turned himself into before. And this is a fully functioning county jail where people are processed on charges ranging from misdemeanors to violent crimes. The jail itself, the subject of multiple investigations for overcrowding, inhumane living conditions, and violence. The other key difference, the mugshot. Are we going to see this tonight? Possibly. We are expecting to see the 45th president of the United States possibly photographed like every other person accused of committing a crime in Fulton County, just like his other co-defendants have as well. And it goes without saying that will be something we have never before seen in the history of this nation. His former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, you see him right here, getting his mugshot taken earlier today. Again, these are the 13 counts that former President Trump is facing. They include conspiracy to commit false statements, forgery, and violation of racketeering laws. Trump and his 18 co-defendants all given a deadline of tomorrow at noon to turn themselves in. And tonight we are learning District Attorney Fani Willis has asked the court to set an October 23rd trial date. That's right around the corner. That's a much faster timeline than initially expected, but far from set in stone at this moment. And another late shakeup just hours before his surrender, Trump changing lawyers. Steve Sadow, a high-profile defense attorney who has represented rappers like T.I., Usher, Rick Ross, now taking the lead in this case, and we'll explain why this is a big deal. But first, we go to NBC's Blaine Alexander, who's leading us off at the jail tonight.
In what's become a familiar scene, tonight former President Trump leaving his New Jersey golf club to surrender to authorities on criminal charges, now for a 4th time. But this time he's walking into a county jail in Atlanta, charged with allegedly trying to overturn Georgia's 2020 presidential election. With the area around the jail on heavy lockdown, the former president will be fingerprinted and possibly have a mugshot taken once inside, where he will likely remain for less than an hour before being released on a $200,000 bond. It will come on the heels of another surrender. His former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, seen here in this mugshot, booked on charges of conspiring with his former boss in the racketeering case. Meadows is fighting to get his case removed to federal court. He was released on a $100,000 bond. Tonight, at least 11 of Trump's 18 co-defendants have surrendered, while Mr. Trump is blasting Fulton County's Democratic DA for bringing what he calls partisan charges. Overnight, asked why he remains upbeat.
I think it's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it. The people see it's a fraud.
Outside the jail, despite a handful of anti-Trump protesters, the former president's sentiment was echoed by a parade of his supporters.
Will you vote for him?
Absolutely, 100%.
Even with the legal challenges, even with the indictments?
Yeah, because they're phony.
It all comes after a major shakeup on Trump's legal team, now led by Georgia defense attorney Stephen Sadow, whose high-profile clients include musicians T.I. and Usher. In a statement, Sadow writes, the president should never have been indicted. Prosecutions intended to advance or serve the ambitions and careers of political opponents of the president have no place in our justice system.
All right, Blaine joins us now from outside the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta. Blaine, we mentioned at the start of the show that DA Fani Willis has asked for the trial date to be set to October 23rd for all 19 defendants. What more do we know about that date?
Well, Tom, yes, that was the request from the DA, asking for that expedited trial date for all 19 co-defendants. A judge basically got back to her and said, okay, we can do that, but only for one of the defendants, Ken Chesebro, because he was the person who had really asked or been pushing for, quote, a speedy trial. So, you know, while Fani Willis said, okay, we can speed it up for everyone, the judge ruled only on Chesebro right now, didn't issue a ruling on the other 18 co-defendants.
Yeah, and that date is right around the corner. Blaine, going back to that noon deadline tomorrow, do we expect the remaining defendants to turn themselves in by that deadline?
The sheriff says he does in a statement, saying that everybody is expected to turn themselves in by noon tomorrow. But remember, Tom, the DA made it clear that she will not hesitate to issue arrest warrants if necessary. In fact, in a previous filing, when Mark Meadows was trying to stop an arrest warrant, they cited an email that she sent to his lawyers basically saying, listen, if you haven't turned yourself in by 12:30 tomorrow, I will issue arrest warrants for you and anybody else, calling that deadline very generous, Tom.
All right, Blaine Alexander for us, leading us off here on Top Story. As we are looking live at pictures, you can see the former president's airplane has landed at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. We are waiting for it to arrive and for him to get down, and he can make it over to the courthouse, we're told, in about 30 minutes. This is a live look now on the ground from the airport. We're expecting the president to be off that plane in about less than 10 minutes. From there, he'll join his motorcade, and they'll make their way through the streets of Atlanta into the Fulton County and right into the courthouse there. For legal analysis ahead of the former president surrendering to the Fulton County Jail, I do want to bring in Catherine Christian. She's a former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney, and she's an NBC News legal analyst. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us here as we're looking at these live images coming out of Atlanta Airport right now. Talk to me about, you've been on the prosecution side, right? Talk to me about what you think is going through the president's head right now as he's about to embark off this airplane, head over to prison, to a jail in Atlanta, and be tried, not be tried, but be processed, be fingerprinted, possibly even a mugshot, and then from there, maybe address the media at some point. We're not sure about that just yet. But what do you think is going through the president's head right now? He's charged with so many crimes there in Georgia.
Well, this is his fourth time of going through a processing. However, this one is not as, I'll call it warm and fuzzy, as Manhattan, as the federal court in Miami, the federal court in D.C., because this particular jail apparently is a horror show for the people who are there. I'm not sure he'll see that part of it. I'm sure, they won't take him to that part because the Secret Service will be with him, but this is a completely different experience. And these charges, in comparison to the Manhattan case, classified documents, are on par with the January 6th special counsel, the most consequential and serious. And it is a state case, which is different than a federal case. So if there was any chance that he was hoping for a pardon, either that he would do if he was reelected or a president who was in his favor, that cannot happen for a state case if he were to be convicted.
The major headline that happened today, one of them was that he changed lawyers and he hired a very high-profile defense attorney out of Atlanta. A lawyer I want to put up on the screen now for our viewers if we can as well, Stephen Sadow. He's represented people like Usher, Rick Ross, T.I., Gunna. He has tried many cases that involve RICO. He's even said that the Fulton County prosecutors bring RICO charges a little too much. He's won. He's beat these prosecutors. What did this move say to you?
Well, that's a smart move. You pick a lawyer who is familiar with the courthouse, familiar with the DA's office, and familiar with trying RICO cases. So it was a very smart move on behalf of Donald Trump to pick that attorney who has been through this before. That
Catherine,
doesn't mean he's going to win
just
this
for 1
time.
second, just because we were seeing the amount of cars in that motorcade. It seemed like almost a dozen vehicles to pick up the former president as we expect him to disembark from the plane right now, from his private plane, as he's heading over to the courthouse and to the jail there in Fulton County. We expect to see him come down this walkway at any moment. Looks like some Secret Service agents are following first ahead. But Catherine, continue. We know that he's just hired this very high-profile.
I was going to say, and I wonder, in D.C., you may recall Walt Nanta was with him.
Right.
I wonder if he made his way with him to Georgia this time. But yeah, so this apparently is a very good choice of a defense attorney for this particular case in this particular jurisdiction. So it's a smart move. So it would have been surprising if he didn't pick someone as sophisticated and knowledgeable as this attorney.
In these cases, and there's some crossover with the federal case as well, and the election interference allegations in the federal case being tried by the special counsel. In these cases, do lawyers from two different cases, do they sometimes work together? So will his legal team that he's paying in Atlanta also work with his team that is trying the federal case?
Will not work with. You hope that they're communicating because it's the same defendant. It involves particularly if the special counsel's January 6th indictment has about 5 pages devoted to what happened in Georgia. So you hope there is some communication, but they're not going to be trying the case together.
Fani Willis set a date for October 23rd. You have 19 defendants in this case. I mean, is that a little too ambitious? We know at least one of those co-defendants said they want the trial to start that date, but that's right around the corner.
Well, it was her way of saying to Mr. Chesebro or Mr. Chesbro, you want a trial?
One of the co-defendants.
Yeah. I'll try this case on that date. And but this was a 2-year investigation. Prosecutors will work on a 2-year investigation by the time it's indicted.
So they're ready to go.
They're ready to go.
They're ready to go.
They can go. I'm not so sure the defense attorneys are.
They can. They just got hired.
And all they know about the case is in the indictment, and there's a whole lot more evidence that they need to know before they're going to be starting a trial.
If you were defending President Trump, what trial date would you ask for?
Well, he asked for April 2026 in the January 6th case, but you would want one more than a year out. For all the defendants.
You'd want at least a year to prepare for a case of this magnitude.
Yeah. Most of these defendants will get out of the case. They're either going to plead guilty, they're going to enter cooperation agreements. That's typically what happens on a large conspiracy case.
Catherine, where's your thinking? Even rivals like former Governor Chris Christie thought this was overreach and that these were federal cases. There's already a federal case ongoing. Did the DA in Fulton County overreach here, in your opinion, or do you think she has a case?
No. I'll quote what my former boss, Cy Vance, said on Meet the Press on Sunday. The state should not be waiting for the federal government to, protect their interests. And I believe what Governor Christie said, he was fine with the other people to be indicted, but not the president. Well, that would be outrageous to let the leader of the conspiracy go unindicted and all of the lower rung people be indicted.
It's taken her 2 years, the DA in Fulton County. Do you think that politics played any role in this? I mean, we just had the debate last night. We're right up against the primary calendar. A lot of people are asking those questions. 2 years it took to bring this case.
That's how long it takes to do an investigation like this. If you read a 98-page indictment and all of the tentacles and the moving parts, that's how long it takes.
And we are seeing our first images of the former president as he walks down that sky bridge, and he is heading to his motorcade, arriving in Atlanta, touching ground there, and about to take that long drive over to the Fulton County Jail, where we may actually see for the first time in the history of this country a mugshot taken of a former president. He may be fingerprinted. These are all things that could possibly happen. They've happened with the other co-defendants in this case. We've seen those stunning mugshots of Mark Meadows, of former Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Will that happen with former President Trump? A lot of people think that's likely. Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, the sheriff has said everyone, all 19 will be have their photo taken as a mugshot, because that's how they do it in Georgia.
You see the motorcade here lined up around Trump's private airplane there just as they are about to take off from the airport. I've been told by our producers in Atlanta it's about a 30-minute drive. It's unclear if he'll have any type of escort by either state police, local police in Atlanta. That's unclear. We do also have live pictures I want to show our viewers now outside both the jail and the courthouse there in Fulton County, where both demonstrators have lined up and also supporters. We understand there is a mixed crowd there. They're all waiting for the president to arrive at some point. He said he was going to be arrested at 7:30 Eastern. It looks like it might be closer to 7:45, but we'll see how fast his motorcade is driving down those roads. One of the things that has been said here is that he's got to be very careful about what he posts on social media, and a line has been drawn about what he can and can't say. Do you think someone like the former president will abide by that?
Well, he hasn't been able to. This order was very specific. Don't speak about witnesses, your co-defendants, or victims, and don't post or repost anything that could be intimidating. And he has so far been unable
He's been
to
attacking the crime stats in Atlanta is what he's been doing. So he's been attacking, but in
the
an
DA.
indirect way. And the DA
what
as
his
well.
lawyers will say, that she's not a witness, she's not a co-defendant, she's not a victim. So I think So
you think legally he's been protected so far? He's been
so
smart.
far, but the judge, when he has his arraignment here, will have to clarify. Not for the defense, they want to keep it ambiguous, but the prosecutor will want to clarify what he can and cannot say. Because, trashing the Atlanta, trashing Fulton County, trashing the Fulton County DA could be considered tainting the jury pool and, giving them a negative impression, which is not what you should be doing. But the judge will have to make that clear.
What would you say to people who say, look, this is going to be state prosecutors? They're maybe not as well versed as those federal prosecutors, as Jack Smith. People have already accused Fani Willis of overreach here. He's hired this very high-profile defense attorney in Atlanta. What do you say to that? They're going to come ready to play, right?
Yeah,
Atlanta.
And I'll just say that's ridiculous. I was a state prosecutor for 30 years. Federal prosecutors have significantly less caseloads. Federal prosecutors have more resources. Federal prosecutors are good, but that doesn't mean they're better than state prosecutors. State prosecutors try more cases. So, that's just hooey.
Catherine, this is a kind of interesting. If my control room can tell me what we're looking at here, it looks like, okay, this is inside a press vehicle. Inside the motorcade, we have a live look inside the motorcade as well. This is the travel pool, from what I'm being told. This is something unique. I don't know if we've seen this yet in any of the arraignments so far. But when you have something at this magnitude, you're going to want to sort of capture minute by minute, and at this stage, mile by mile, as the president goes to turn himself in there in Atlanta. I understand we have one of our correspondents, Gabe Gutierrez, who's outside the jail, from my understanding. He's been out there all day reporting, talking to both demonstrators and protesters. Gabe, as we watch the president make his way over to you, what are you seeing outside the jail there?
Hey there, Tom. So let me set the scene for you. We're outside of another entrance here on Rice Street. This is the main entrance to the jail. Actually, former President Trump is expected to go in the back entrance, but this is the place where his supporters have gathered. As you can see right here, photojournalist Randy Brown can kind of pan here through the crowd. Several dozen of former President Trump's supporters have been here throughout the day. The crowd has increased now quite a bit. Just a short time ago, one of former President Trump's surrogates, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, was also here. I spoke to her, and she was defiant as she ever was, saying that this never should have happened, that this, I asked her, was her rhetoric dangerous, talking about rhetoric of the election. She said no. She blames the media for, ramping up the temperature here. And she says that former President Trump, these charges should not have even brought at all, and we're basically saying that the onus should be on the DA to drop these charges, something we've heard from former President Trump's supporters over and over again. But throughout the day, we've seen security ramping up here. Earlier today, we saw sheriff's deputies putting in more barricades, really as a precaution. Nothing's been unruly here. There have been a couple of counter demonstrators, very few of them, that have gotten in some verbal arguments, as sometimes happen in these types of situations, Tom. But I can tell you, having been now to the arraignment in Manhattan for the hush money case and the classified documents case in Miami, reminding me a little bit of Miami in terms of the sweltering temperatures and how these supporters have been here really throughout the day, wanting to support the former president, saying that this is a political persecution in their view. Again, we expect the former president here in just a few minutes after he landed at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, and he will be processed inside of the Fulton County Jail. Notoriously, we're very well known for a number of reasons, including being now under federal investigation for the conditions inside that jail. But again, he will be brought here. Unclear for sure whether we'll have a mugshot or not. But if he does, we have been getting them, as we've been reporting, pretty quickly. We got Mark Meadows' mugshot earlier today, just shortly after we left here. So again, some of these supporters here, kind of an atmosphere, they're chanting, waiting for the former president. They might not see him again since he might be brought to another entrance, but that's the scene here, right here outside of the Fulton County Jail.
Gabe, stand by for us because I do want to ask you what the temperature's like over there as far as the people go. We are watching the middle of your screen. That is the president's motorcade as he's heading over to Gabe at the Fulton County Jail. Inside on the left side of the screen, this is the travel pool. Those are media, there's reporters, photographers allowed to roll on this live image as we see the president and this historic moment, really, as he's arraigned for a fourth time, criminally this time, state charges in the state of Georgia. Gabe, what is the sort of the temperature over there outside? Are people, what's the mood? Are people angry? Are people joking? We heard some singing in your live shot.
Right. You know, it depends, you know, throughout the day. There have been, you know, a jovial atmosphere for some. There has been some anger, some frustration. Actually, let me talk to one woman over here. I'm going to put you on the spot. I spoke with you a little bit ago. Hold on 1 second if I can get this cable over here. Hi, how are you? It's so good to talk to you. We were talking earlier, Tom, and, you know, you're from Atlanta, right?
Yes, I live in Atlanta.
And you were telling me why you were here today. You decided to come here kind of on a whim or so?
Yeah, it was on a whim. I'm here to support Donald Trump and every American's right to freedom of speech.
Right, and that's what you said this is about. You don't buy the charges against him, do you? Or you think this is, for you, do you think it's a freedom of speech issue?
Yeah,
really? So tell me
about our rights to freedom of speech. I mean, we all have those rights.
Do you think that he won the 2020 election?
No.
You don't? You don't think former President Trump won? So you think President Biden, in fact, won the election?
I believe he did. I didn't vote for him.
Yeah, gotcha. But thank you very much, ma'am. Tom, some of the other Trump supporters that we've spoken here strongly do not believe that that President Biden won this election, and those are the angriest ones that we have seen here. They are incredibly frustrated. They've been, you know, yelling at some of the few counter protesters here. But overall, your question was the temperature here. Not very tense at all. They're just here to show their support.
And Gabe, we see obviously. Fulton County Sheriff's Office officers that are there, obviously just to protect the roads, clear people off the roads. We see them here in a different shot, a live camera now as we're looking, I think, just outside the jail as well. How many police would you say are there right now? And again, it's good to know that at least the mood out there is not violent at this point at all whatsoever.
Oh, certainly not, Tom. At least not yet. It's been a calm mood really throughout the day, but you can see sheriff's deputies that are right there outside of the main entrance of the Fulton County Jail. We have seen an increased presence throughout the day. When we arrived here this morning, this one of these barricades here that some of these supporters are sitting on, this was not here. You know, throughout the day, they've been adding more barricades really to get some separation between the demonstrators that have been arriving here. Also, the media, if we pan over here, Tom, you can see kind of give you a behind the scenes look. You know, these are some of the tents for some of the media that have been here really for the last several days. And then you can see how many of the Trump supporters have kind of filled in this area. But very calm situation right now. As a precaution, of course, though, this is something that sheriff's deputies have been preparing for, and they have prepared for in other locations down in Miami and obviously D.C. and also in New York, following these other court proceedings. So this one different in the sense that we're not going to see the former president walk in. He's going to be inside that jail to be processed. And again, there's another entrance, the back entrance over there, where we expect him to come in. Unclear if these supporters will get to see him here at all. But there is a very, very heavy police presence. Sheriff's deputies have been here really throughout the day.
Gabe Gutierrez outside the Fulton County Jail for us as we continue to monitor the president's motorcade as it's making its way towards the Fulton County Courthouse and the jail. Catherine, before you go, I do want to ask you, what type of pressure are these prosecutors under? Because we went over the state versus federal prosecutors, but they're essentially going to try a former president of the United States.
That's a lot for all three indictments. It's a big deal. It's the most high profile any of the prosecutors involved with any of these indictments have ever had. And what you just do, you just try to block that out and just focus on the case. It's hard in this case because you have this former president who is posting and saying awful things about the prosecutors. But you know what? You just have to like sort of block that out.
Atlanta's a major city, but do you think these prosecutors will have all the resources they'll need to take on these high-profile attorneys? And again, we're talking about 19 defendants here. I mean, this is a big case.
Well, I'm sure this DA has made sure she has for this because, as you said, there are 19 defendants and 19 defense attorneys, and there might be multiple trials if people, if we do have that trial with just Mr. Chesebro, and then you'll have to have others. But, she wouldn't have done it if she didn't, meaning Fani Willis, if she didn't believe she had the resources to do it.
All right, Catherine, we appreciate all your time. I know you have to run. We will check back with you, I know, later tonight as we continue to cover this historic moment right here. The former president, if you're just tuning into Top Story and News Now, we are monitoring the former president's motorcade. He has landed in Atlanta. He is moments away from arriving at the Fulton County Jail. On the left hand of your screen, this is a live. Highway. We think the president will probably arrive there within the next 5-10 minutes, we think, since there's no traffic now. He could probably get there a little faster. From there, it's unknown what happens. We know he's going to be booked. The big questions are, will he get that mugshot? And I want to show our viewers, if we can, the mugshots we have seen of Mark Meadows, one of the co-defendants, the mugshots we've seen of former New York City mayor, once known as America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. These mugshots have in a lot of ways been stunning to think about these men who were public servants and now charged with very serious crimes and facing potential prison time. Co-defendants in a case with the former president, the accusations have been very clear-cut. They are accused of trying to overturn the 2020 election, of intimidating witnesses, of adding fake electors, of breaking election rules, of lying to the public. And these are just a series of the mugshots we're seeing of the people who were in the former president's inner circle who have now been charged with crimes along with the former president. And the president will be doing the same process, we think. There is an unknown about the mugshot, and there have been a lot of speculation and theories. He's very well known. Will there be a need for a mugshot? Everyone knows what he looks like. But up to this point, everyone has gotten a mugshot in this case, every single person. So it would be a little odd if the president didn't get a mugshot. And we can guarantee once that image does come out, and we may even get it tonight, if it does come out, that will be an iconic image in the worst possible way for the former president. That being said, as all these charges, all these indictments have happened to the former president, his poll numbers have continued to go up and up and up to the point where he thought he didn't even have to debate in the first GOP presidential debate yesterday in Milwaukee. He skipped it completely, decided to do an interview with Tucker Carlson on Twitter, and felt very comfortable with that. He has a commanding lead in both Iowa, New Hampshire, the first two states, and a very big lead in all national polls. And those poll numbers, again, they seem to go up as these indictments have happened. And supporters of President Trump have warned Democrats of overreach, that they may actually build some sympathy for the former president. But again, we don't know. There are a lot of Republicans who say they want to turn past this page. They're looking at new leadership. They want to find a new leader. They want to find somebody who can take on President Biden in the general election. And they don't want that person to be former President Trump. We're going to have to wait and see how all this shakes out. But the president will be campaigning, will be running a presidential campaign as he's facing 4 indictments, the latest one right here in Atlanta. As we said, he is moments away of arriving to that courthouse. And this looks like the first patrol car from that motorcade may be arriving at the Fulton County Jail right now. I do want to let our viewers know in about 20 seconds or so, I'm going to hand this over to my colleague and good friend Lester Holt, who's going to pick up our network coverage for everything that's going to happen here in Fulton County. So keep it locked right here. Right after that special report, Hallie Jackson, another good friend of mine, is going to join me, and we're going to pick up the coverage from there. We're going to be on this story for the next several hours. We thank you for watching Top Story right now.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Hello, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news from Atlanta, where something both historic and now somewhat routine is playing out. Former President Donald Trump has departed the Atlanta airport. He's on his way to surrender to authorities at a Fulton County jail. Mr. Trump has been indicted already on 13 counts for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results.
Other cases so
former
far,
president
quite frankly, and it's something that the former president likely does not want to hear. We have already seen his attorneys file pushing back on that October 23rd date that's been set just for now for one of the defendants in the case, saying that, quite frankly, they want nothing to do with any defendant who's looking for a speedy trial, and they're looking to push this far, far in advance, as we know that the former president's schedule often is. So we are already in a world where we could be looking at multiple trials in this case, and really a world where former President Trump is looking to delay as much as possible when his co-defendants are not looking to do the same thing.
And speaking of co-defendants, Olivia, we know that some of them, like Mark Meadows, have wanted to move the case from state court to federal court. Is the former president also expected to request the same?
We do expect that that's something that the former president would want to push for, and that would make him the fourth defendant already in this case to do so if he were to make that filing. So what we have here is a bunch of the defendants trying to move the case into federal court, and there is a very interesting reason that that might be helpful to them. So remember, even if the case moves to federal court, it would still be tried by the district attorney, Fani Willis, and it would still be under the state rules. However, if it is successfully moved to federal court, Stephanie, it changes the jury pool in a way that could significantly benefit former President Trump. His team seems to think, which is why it would be better for them to move it over.
Thank you, Olivia. Kim, let's talk a little bit more about this, the federal versus the state. Are there any benefits for Trump's team if this were to be moved to federal?
Yeah, it's an unusual motion, and the theory behind it is that Mark Meadows was working as a federal employee, a federal official, during this time. And there's a statute that Congress passed that said that you can take a case, a criminal case, from the state court and put it in federal court in theory, because Congress decided we don't want state prosecutors going after federal employees so they can't do their jobs while they're in the federal government. That's sort of the theory, but it hasn't been tested that much. And you have to have a federal issue to put it in federal court, but we would have a federal judge, so that federal judges have life tenure. They cannot be fired. They're not elected. So some people perceive that, and scholars will talk about whether that makes it a more neutral judge, number one. And as Olivia indicated, I think the jury's going to be really important here, because remember, Stephanie, everyone in this country is either voted for Donald Trump, voted against Donald Trump, or decided to stay home. So people are all, by definition, coming with potentially some bias or some preconceived notions of things. That's going to make it very difficult in all four of these cases to make sure there's an unbiased, fair jury for both sides.
Right, that may be difficult, the court of public opinion. Thanks, Kim. Here are live images. We just saw the former president arrive there at the Fulton County Jail in Georgia. We want to bring in John Katko, an ABC News contributor, as well as a former congressman and former assistant U.S. attorney. John, tell us, what do you make of all of this? The timing, this fourth indictment happening as this former president intends to run again for president?
Well, I think that this is going to be a unique experience for the president, especially because he is going to be mugshotted for the first time. And I can tell you, based on my 20 years of experience, especially with white-collar criminals, that has a profound effect on the individual as well as the public at large. And to see that photo out there and to see that whole thing happening, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. It's going to be quite different for the president, but also I think it's going to be quite different for the public. And then you got to start seeing how they react to it and how this is going to happen. It's going to be fascinating.
It certainly is. And you've stressed throughout this case, the severity of the charges. Do you think that it's sinking in for the former president right now that he's at the jail, that this is actually happening? Do you think it's sinking in, the severity of these charges?
Well, if it isn't, he's not human. I'm positive that it's sinking in for him. It sinks in for everybody. And I think this is going to have one of those, it's going to be kind of a watershed moment for him as an individual. Another thing I thought of when I heard you talking earlier about him firing his attorney and replacing with someone else and all that. This president is used to, I think I've seen statistics, more than 1,000 lawsuits that he's been involved in. And those are civil lawsuits. That's a very, very, very different dynamic than a criminal lawsuit. And, you know, dispensing with your criminal defense attorney here and there because you don't like what you're hearing is not the same as a civil case. And so I think that there's a lot that I'm sure the former president is processing right now. And this is going to be a profoundly impactful moment for him tonight. If you look at the images, for example, of Rudy Giuliani, he came out of the courtroom after being arraigned and a lot of bravado. That mugshot didn't look like bravado. And I think the same can be said for Mark Meadows. You know, those pictures tell 1,000 words, and I think they're going to with him too. And I think this could be a very impactful moment for him in a way that he's never experienced before. He has to go through the indignity of being weighed, of being fingerprinted, which he has in the past, but not weighed, and then his picture taken and with a mugshot with a number under him. That's a very different dynamic for someone like him, and especially since he was a former president of the United States of America. So this could have a very profound impact on him for sure.
Well, thank you so much. We want to check in now with Victor Oquendo, who has been outside the Fulton County Jail. Victor, we saw the motorcade go by, but did he go by where you are, exactly where those supporters are? Did he get a chance to see them?
So, Stephanie, unfortunately for all the supporters that have been here all day long, we're talking about probably a couple hundred of them, the former president actually went by another entrance in his motorcade. We are at another entrance here to the Fulton County Jail. It does appear like they went to the other side, and now the question is, as the former president likely goes inside the jail, is what will the exit route be? Because these people have been lined up all day, not just to show their support, but also to get a glimpse of the former president. Again, everyone right now, Stephanie, they're just waiting to see what is going to happen next, and we're trying to figure it out ourselves.
I hear you, Victor. Thank you so much. You're looking at live images right there outside the Fulton County Jail, where the former president has just arrived a few minutes ago to get, as you've heard from our contributors, to get fingerprinted, weighed, photographed. We want to check in with ABC's Olivia Rubin. Olivia, even though the former president is being processed there today, tell us about this timeline, how we've seen this all play out. We know this was a 2.5-year process. The former president has been indicted now 4 times. What about a pardon? Could that be on the table?
Well, the pardon, Stephanie, and I know I keep saying that Georgia has these really different laws and the way it's working here is very different, but that is especially true in terms of the pardon process here in Georgia. Now, of course, there's the main reason that these are state charges, so the presidential pardon power would not work here for President Trump to pardon himself or anyone else. But also here in Georgia, the governor actually does not have any pardon power like other states. So even if Trump had a good relationship with the governor here, Brian Kemp, which by all indications they do not, they very publicly trade attacks on each other. Even if they had a good relationship, Kemp would not be able to give the former president a pardon if he were to want to give him one. But here in Georgia, actually, to sort of add on to the list here, the pardons are done by this independent board where people are appointed. They serve out their terms on this board, but yet you cannot be eligible for a pardon here in Georgia unless you are 5 years out of your sentence that you have been given here, Stephanie. So none of those things are something that the former president wants to hear in this case, because that really would mean that he would have to be convicted, sentenced, serve his sentence, wait 5 years, and then apply for a pardon here in Georgia. So all of those factors really stacking against the former president here, and not what he wants to hear.
Not at all. That certainly doesn't work in his favor. Olivia, thank you. I want to bring back in John Katko. John, has the former president, in your opinion, been treated any differently? We know he was tweeting earlier today on his social media platform, hyping up the surrender. But does that violate, for instance, his release condition by any means? Is he being treated any differently?
Oh, he's clearly being treated differently, and I don't have much quarrel with that. But when I was doing RICO cases, and I did probably half a dozen major RICO cases, we didn't give the option for individuals to turn themselves in. We did roundups and brought them in and had them sit in a courtroom and then were arraigned when they were in handcuffs. He's not going through that. And, under other circumstances, I think it's the right thing to do. But, this is a very different type of RICO case, but it's also garden variety in some respects, because when I did political corruption cases and police corruption cases, sometimes you're a little bit different based on the circumstances. This one, yeah, he is being treated differently, but in the greater scheme of things, I don't think it's that big a deal. I still think it's incredibly impactful, and I think the case is very, very serious.
Right, and you have decades of experience working RICO cases. What are some of your expectations about these co-defendants possibly flipping on the former president?
Well, I've never done a racketeering case where one or more co-defendants didn't plead and cooperate. And it's kind of like I used to say to a jury, if you want to talk to a baker or learn how bread is baked, you talk to a baker, right? If you want to learn how a racketeering enterprise works, talk to one of the members. And here's one of the members who's pled guilty, said this racketeering enterprise existed, and that was a part of it, and so was this guy on trial. That's very, very impactful. And I would find it hard to believe that, given the 5-year mandatory minimum sentences that are going to be meted out here as a minimum, that one or more of these defendants will not plead guilty and cooperate to try and avoid the jail time. And that, in addition to all the other evidence out there, can be incredibly impactful to a jury. And I said earlier in an earlier appearance, a RICO case is like a ball rolling downhill. You keep hearing day after day all this evidence coming in and all this evidence coming in. If you have all that evidence coming in and then you have people that were involved in it saying this happened, that is incredibly impactful. So it's, anybody who goes to trial in a case like this is really rolling the dice.
So many implications, so many charges. The former president now facing charges in 4 different cases. In addition to running for president, let's talk a little bit about the legal calendar here. How does the legal calendar even work in a situation like this?
Well, we're talking, it would be a mess with one criminal trial. You're talking about 4 separate and distinct criminal trials on both the federal and state levels. I have no clue how they can possibly balance all of this and how a campaign can be run as well. It's we're in really uncharted territories here. And I've prosecuted probably thousands of defendants. I've never seen a defendant with this many different charges in different jurisdictions pending all at the same time. And on top of that, having a public career as well. So it's pretty significant.
Certainly historic, John. Thank you. We want to welcome back Olivia Rubin. The former president will go in for processing, including taking a mugshot. We know he arrived there at the Fulton County Jail just a few moments ago. Talk to us about the process he'll go through before that photo is released to the public.
Well, if we take the previous defendants that have surrendered here as any indication on what the former president will go through, it's that he is going to get this mugshot first. There have been defendants who have released their mugshot, publicly on their own social media profiles before the sheriff's office has officially put them out, as the office usually does. So the former president is going to see this mugshot first himself. And I can say that, you know, having everyone see it, that's one thing. But I think that's going to be a real moment for the former president when he first gets to see this image. Now, publicly, of course, we can expect that the campaign, because he is a candidate for 2024, is going to use this as their best new campaign tool. You know, I was speaking to a source close to the former president recently, and I said, you know, what about the mugshot? Is that embarrassing when that comes out? How is that going to be, you know, play out? And this person said, well, that's our best campaign tool. I'm going to make $5 million selling T-shirts with that mugshot. So that's going to be the public messaging around the mugshot. Come get your Trump mugshot T-shirt and mugs. But I can say, just having been in these sort of rooms previously when the president has been arraigned, I was there the previous 2 times, and of course it was a different situation. It was at a courthouse, not at a jail. But privately, Stephanie, when, you know, the former president is in this situation, it is a difficult situation for him when he is in the courtroom, when the cameras are turned off, when he is not the campaign man, but rather a defendant in these situations. It does appear to weigh on him. And I've described this before, how he, you know, looks at the floor, how he is reserved. He says very little. Sometimes he doesn't even enter his own plea on his own behalf. So it's a very different contrast to the president that we see inside of the courtroom, or that we won't see inside of the jail, to the public perception that we see and what the campaign puts out.
Thank you so much, Olivia. You've been there for so many different arraignments, and of course you've seen his demeanor, and it's certainly a different situation there being at the Fulton County Jail. Thank you, Olivia. Kim, what do you make of the legal shakeup? We spoke about this a few moments ago, how former President Trump switched lawyers just hours before surrendering. What does that tell you about his game plan just hours before showing up in Atlanta?
Well, reportedly, he doesn't like to lose, and he blames lawyers if they lose things. You know, Rudy Giuliani apparently asked recently, or his son asked to have his fees reimbursed, and one of the conversations reportedly was, listen, you didn't get me what I wanted. And I think that's the instinct. His first lawyer, both of these lawyers, the former one and the new one, have experience with high-profile cases, have represented people who are in, you know, celebrities. So I think that the public-facing component of this defense is going to be very important for Donald Trump, not necessarily for an anonymous defendant. But that being said, the former lawyer filed some really big motions trying to get Fani Willis thrown off the case, trying to get evidence taken out of the case, and lost. So, you know, it's probably, you know, a psychological thing in part with Donald Trump. I'm sure both of these are excellent lawyers. But this idea, wait a minute, maybe if I just switch my team out, I'll start getting some results. And that's not how the law works. All lawyers are bound by the evidence, and they're bound by the law, and they're bound by the rules. And there's definitely strategy, particularly when you're in front of a jury. There's personalities and how you weave the theory of the case. That being said, when it comes to legal motions, getting things thrown out, it's really hard to make magic when there's not a lot of there. Although I think we will see additional motions in all 4 cases trying to get pieces of the case thrown out or evidence thrown out, constitutional arguments relating to him being president, the First Amendment, et cetera. Those can, at a minimum, buy some time, because the really important issues relating to the Constitution, for example, could go all the way to the Supreme Court before we have a trial. And I think that alone would be a win for the Trump defense team.
Let's talk about other co-defendants trying to make some of those changes, trying to make some magic. Mark Meadows, who's also charged in this, filed a motion seeking to move his Fulton County case to federal court. What do you think would be the motivation behind that?
Well, you're going from a completely different court system to another court system, state court to federal court. Different rules apply, different procedural rules, the federal rules of criminal procedure versus the Georgia rules. It would be the same underlying criminal counts, but you'd get a federal judge. Federal judges are there for life. They're perceived as a little sort of, you know, sometimes more independent and neutral. And then the jury pool would be the federal district, not just that particular local district. And so the jury, if he gets one juror that decides, I just don't think it's okay to treat a former president this way, or this is my person, right? I'm a MAGA supporter, or I'm a Republican, or I don't like what this is doing for the country, and that doesn't come out in the discussion of what they call voir dire, where you have a communication with potential jurors. If that doesn't come out, then there would be a hung jury, and it would be up to the government to decide whether to try him again. But again, that could be a win. So there's those kinds of strategic decisions. But one thing's for sure, Stephanie, this is really expensive for each of these defendants. Lawyers are really, really, really expensive. And it's not just the lead lawyer. There will be junior lawyers. There will be paralegals. There will be investigators. Unfortunately, in the American system, people with wealth do get better justice if they're criminal defendants, and they're more able to defend and bring cases in the civil side. And not everyone in this case has tremendous wealth. And as Congressman Katko mentioned earlier, there will be some incentives, I think, for people to get some kind of agreement, cooperation agreement, so they can stop the bleeding financially and move on with their lives.
I want to recap exactly why this happened in Georgia, right? We know that the former president had some sort of an obsession with Georgia, claimed 5,000 people, dead people voted, obsessed with a suitcase full of ballots, said poll workers, too, specifically, who were actually witnesses before the select committee. Trump claimed they were part of a scheme. So we know that this is the former president's fourth indictment on charges related to efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. We now know that the former president has been booked and released. That is coming from the Fulton County Jail's Sheriff's Office. The former president has now been booked and released. Kim, is there anything that stood out to you within this case, within this fourth indictment, given all of these claims that the former president made relating to Georgia?
There are two parts of the indictment that really struck me. They aren't related to the charges specifically against Donald Trump, although that's arguably part of the RICO, the racketeering. One has to do with the intimidation of election workers. We saw two of them, mother and daughter, who spoke to the United States Congress and have said their lives have been ruined. These are regular people. And election workers in America, a lot of them are just volunteers. They're your friends, their neighbors. These are people that do their civic duty for the rest of us to make our elections work. And they were threatened and intimidated and had tremendous impact, negative impact in their lives. The other piece has to do with Coffee County, and the ballots and the machinery in Coffee County. Allegedly, there were some attempts for some of these defendants to tamper with that machinery. And what's striking to me about that was, of course, this was a lot of what Donald Trump has been saying since the election, that, there's been, messing with the machines. Of course, Fox News lost a huge defamation case, or I should say they settled it for hundreds of millions of dollars around that. And I think that just gets to the heart of our electoral process. It's almost like he claimed there was all this fraud, and now the people within his circle are accused of actually messing with the machinery. And I think that's something that Americans inherently understand is not okay. So those are the pieces I don't think we saw so far in the January 6th case, which is much narrower and much more discreet in terms of what the federal government decided to do about that whole narrative leading up to that horrible day.
Took years to get here, but here we are. Let's check in with Victor Oquendo, who is outside the Fulton County Jail. As we just mentioned, the former president, Donald Trump, has been booked and released from the Fulton County Jail there in Georgia. That is per the sheriff's office. A senior advisor to the former president tells ABC News that a mugshot was taken of Trump moments after entering the Fulton County Jail. Again, let's check in with Victor Oquendo, who has been outside the jail for us. Victor, what is happening there right now?
So, Stephanie, now that the former president has been booked and released, everyone out here who's been waiting all day is trying to figure out if his motorcade will be driving by our side of the jail here, right outside this entrance to the Fulton County Prison. I can tell you that there are plenty of supporters here of the former president. There are plenty of signs that say Trump won, but at the same time, there are plenty of people who are eager to see that mugshot, see the former president booked. One sign just made its way down that way saying, "Lock up Trump in Georgia, my vote counts." Just take a look behind me here. You got a mix of supporters, those pro and against Trump. You know, you've got this sign back here. Hold that up for me, sir, if you could. It says, "No one is above the law," and right in front of him, this guy holding up his "Make America Great Again" hat. Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Laverne, California, just outside of LA.
You're outside of. Did you come here just for this today?
Yeah, my friend does a Dilly show, Brendan Dilly, and I came to do some shows with him. We talk politics, but yeah, I came to be here. I was here. I love Rudy Giuliani, so I came to support him, and then today President Trump.
That's a long way to come.
I love my president, man. All are welcome on the Trump train, man. I mean, people try to racially divide us through all kinds of things. It's for everybody. You see the blacks for Trump, you see everybody. My boy here, we love President Trump. So we appreciate you being out here, although we didn't get to see him.
Gotcha. And what about for you? You're holding that sign up there that says "No one is above the law." Are you here from Atlanta?
Absolutely. And no one is above the law.
And why was it so important for you to be out here?
I think equal representation all the way around. This is what America's about. We all show up. We agree to disagree, and we're civil about it, right?
It's a love fest, bro.
Thank you guys very much. Last thing I'll say, Stephanie, is you can take away from this interaction here, everything has been peaceful today. Send it back to you.
That's good to hear, Victor. We are looking at live images now of the former president leaving the Fulton County Jail. You can see escorted there by police. His motorcade is now leaving. And just a few moments ago, we told you the former president was booked. His mugshot was taken, and he is now heading back to the airport as he boards his plane to head back to Bedminster, New Jersey. Kim, let's talk about those who say this is political. This has been years in the making. Why not just let this go? Talk about that, how it's those who say this is the legal system at work, the justice system at work, versus those who say this is just political. Let it go.
You know, it's hard to not be sympathetic to that argument because we have a big election coming in a year. And of course, we're a more divided political country than ever. We're very polarized, and we tend to sort of sort people blue versus red, almost like a team mentality. But you have to think about the Constitution and the rule of law. People talk about upholding the rule of law, like a speed limit when you're driving down the street, right? The sign can say 35 miles an hour, but you'll blow through it and go 45 or 50 if there's no ticket. One day you do it, and there's a machine hiding in the bushes, and you get that ticket in the mail, and then everyone's going to slow down the next time after getting that ticket. That's really why this isn't so much political. If you swapped out Donald Trump and you put a Democrat, or you put some other person that maybe you're not that excited about in that position, you have to understand if there are no tickets for speed.
All right, folks, you should be able to hear me now. They got inside in the car there.
The implications are so.
See, we're just waiting on that mug shot, and we'll probably just call it for the rest of the day here. I don't have time for that Tucker Carlson Trump interview. I actually can't find a full version of the Tucker Carlson Trump interview. Is it like behind a paywall or something? Is that what's going on? But anyway, yeah, we're just waiting on that mug shot, and we'll, I don't know, I guess we'll celebrate. I don't know. It's for me, it's not like this isn't to be. It's a dark day for America. It really is a dark day for America. If Trump is actually arrested and put in jail, that will be a great thing for justice. All the same, having a president who's so criminal, so disregards the rule of law, and to have so many people still have his back, still want him in charge, there's a lot to not be so proud about, right?
Just after a war, or to sort of make some peace. We saw this with Gerald Ford and President Nixon. So it's sort of looming out there as this weird, arcane kind of historical artifact. But for Donald Trump, at the federal level, those two huge cases, if he's president again, there are very few limits on the constitutional pardon power. He can make those go away. This one, not so much, which is, I think, why this is.
So, I mean, does anyone have a problem with that? Like, I've never found the presidential pardon system to make any sense to me, right? Like the person committed the crime, guilty, absolutely committed the crime, was found guilty in a court of law. President can just say you're innocent. I find that to be an incredible breach of the of the three power structure that we have here. I don't know. It just seems like if you could just subvert justice, what's the point of
So
it?
I think we've gotten that a little bit mixed up in the last few years, the idea being that somehow there's some entitlement for certain people to have power. I really think we need to see accountability for something this serious. Disruption of the peaceful transition of power from one president to another. People died on that day. A lot of people were injured. Potentially tampering with voting machines, filing fake slates of electors, trying to dupe the United States Congress, to dupe secretaries of state, to basically dupe the voters. If we say thumbs up, that's no problem for certain people, then we're moving that triangle again, the upside triangle where we're the boss.
Lenny.
We're flipping
right.
that, and we're creating something that looks more like an unlimited monarchy, where in theory the power came from God. The power didn't come from the people. That's the innovation of the framers of the United States Constitution. The people are the ones in charge. And I really think these efforts by various prosecutors at various levels, they're not all answering to the same one superior, except to the extent to which it's functioning as a democracy, and their bosses are the United States citizenry.
Yeah, okay. Keep sucking yourself off. We're literally on the precipice of this entire organization, this criminal organization called the Republican Party, being in full control of the United States. If Trump and Biden were running right now, Trump would be neck and neck with Biden. Neck and neck. The guy getting a fucking, caravan of cops to and from his court dates would be neck and neck with Biden. I mean, what the hell does that say about the neoliberals, about Biden?
Former President Donald Trump has been booked and released from the Fulton County Jail. That is from the sheriff's office. A senior advisor to the former president tells ABC News that a mugshot was taken of Trump moments after entering the Fulton County Jail. The motorcade right now is on the way to the airport, where he will board his private plane and head back to Bedminster, New Jersey. Now, in this case, the president's own words being used against him. Take a listen.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find.
I just need a couple votes.
11,780
perfect phone call
votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
What I knew is that we didn't have any votes to find. We had continued to look. We
Technically
investigated,
illegal.
like I just shared the numbers with you. There were no votes to find. That was an accurate count that had been certified.
Let's go back to John Katko, an ABC News contributor, as well as a former congressman and former assistant U.S. attorney. John, all of this comes as the 8 other candidates
Let's go see what
for the Republican
NBC
nomination.
is up to. Let's see what NBC is up to.
Image in the worst possible way for the former president. But then again, Hallie, you know this, on the political side, it may rally his base.
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw it show up on T-shirts in his merch store, Tom. We've got it covered from every angle as we are bringing you this live rolling coverage right here on NBC News. We have our team of reporters covering this from coast to coast.
Yeah, and they're here to break down all the angles on this historic day for our country. One that after 4 arrests might be feeling, you know what, like we've been here before, but again, Hallie, this is also different. We're going to start with Gabe Gutierrez. He's live in Atlanta for us, and he's outside the Fulton County Jail for us right now. Gabe, you were there moment by moment as those supporters. You were talking to them in real time as that motorcade came through. Gabe, what was that moment like, and what are the Trump supporters telling you out there outside the jail?
Trump supporters saying,
hi there, Tom and Hallie. Well, we're outside of the main entrance to the Fulton County Jail, and I want to show you what the scene looks like right now. Again, many Trump supporters are still here. Many of them actually disappointed, however, Tom and Hallie, because this is the main entrance. This is the entrance where there was a large police presence. However, the former president actually came in around the corner, the back entrance. My colleague Blaine Alexander has been reporting from there, and that is where the motorcade went in. And so these supporters did not catch a glimpse of the former president, but we have been speaking with them.
He couldn't even give him a wave.
The significance of this.
He didn't even give him a wave.
proceedings and these indictments in general. Many of them are so frustrated, Howard. As you can see, let me show you a little bit more of this. As photojournalist Randy Brown can pan over here and show just how many people showed up. Really dozens in the morning. More and more people gathered here throughout the day. And Tom, I was speaking with you earlier. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office taking this very seriously, as other local jurisdictions have.
He couldn't even give him a wave, dude.
Former president of the United States. And so interesting, Tom. This happened so quickly that we surprised here among the.
It's not like he's got to catch his flight. It's his plane. He could leave anytime he wanted. You know, he could have pulled up and did an hour, then a little meet and greet with everybody, say thank you for coming out. Wow, dude. Wow. It's already over, you fucking morons.
When it comes to what the former president actually had to go through, and now there are lots of
there's
questions,
no
which
hearing.
I'm sure you'll get to in this special report about.
No, there's no hearing yet. This is the beginning of the process, right? This is putting your name on the paper. Okay, this is like literally the beginning of it. In Georgia, as you well know, we've already done this 3 other times federally in other states, but this is local Georgia because of his attempt to change local Georgia elections. So this is the start of that whole process.
And we want to separate it from anyone who wants a speedy trial. They're of
Welcome
course
back,
advocating for a trial that could take place as late as 2026. So we have been speaking again with the Trump supporters here.
Yeah, he's listening to his voice.
As you've been reporting behind.
I mean, what is he going to do? What is Trump going to do, right? Just not show up? They have a warrant out for his arrest and the fucking feds are knocking on his door again? This time not for classified documents.
Now mixing in a little bit with the Trump people as well. Hallie, you been watching this?
And this is what we've
What
seen,
does Chuck
Gabe,
Todd
moments
think?
here, right?
Yeah.
You're right, Gabe. I mean, I think back to Miami, for example, when the
Hold on,
former
let me fix
president was
my mic.
indicted there. It is a scene when he shows up for these moments. It has become now a pattern.
That's right. And Hallie, you see, it really is a surreal scene. And you made the point earlier. It's remarkable. Yes, this might be the 4th time this has happened, but each time it is surreal, unprecedented, whatever adjective you want to say. You have members of the media here really from around the world. This broadcaster
testing mic through Yeti. Testing mic through Yeti.
Trump supporters here. You have counter demonstrators that are supporting Fani Willis here, mixing it up with them, getting into verbal disagreements. In this particular situation, it hasn't been overly tense.
When do we get to use a gun?
Some verbal back and forth, some raised voices, but nothing serious. But this is something that local authorities, though, have had to prepare for. Prepare for here, prepare for down in Miami, in D.C., in New York, something we're seeing play on over and over again. But again, a former president of the United States surrendering on multiple felony charges just in the past few moments. And these folks were here to voice their support.
And Gabe, I want to remind our viewers what they're watching right now. The center of your screen, the former president's motorcade heading back to the airport. Yeah. That left screen there.
We don't need a fucking recap. Homie, we don't need a yeah. We can see it. Thank you.
And Hallie, I mean, every time we saw the mugshot of Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, it's stunning to see these people who were public servants and then to see these criminal mugshots. Look at this here. Gabe, my question to you is how quick was the turnaround time from the moment those mugshots were taken, do we know, till the time that we actually saw them posted and released publicly? The sheriff has just confirmed to our Blaine Alexander that indeed a mugshot was taken of former President Trump. I'm just curious to know when we actually think we're going to see it.
Tom, again, it's all speculation at this point, but informed speculation. We can tell you that the mugshots that you just put up there on the screen, we would get them after, a co-defendant was booked, potentially within a few hours, 2 hours or so.
Come on, expedite. We want that shit, expedite.
When we first put on the website the information about him being booked, it wasn't a very long time before that mugshot came out. I can tell you earlier there was some consideration that we might, have to wait until the following business day to get that mugshot. That hasn't happened here. Local authorities have been very good and transparent about releasing those mugshots on a timely basis. So if that tracks, and we do have confirmation from a source
I'm losing my shit,
campaign,
dude.
But also, as I understand it, our colleague reporting from an official source here that a mugshot was taken is possible.
Look, I mean, I'll take it. I am so desperate for justice. I am starving for justice, okay? I'm fucking Batman over here, right? I am fucking famished. I need some justice. I'll take it. I'll take it, dude. I'll take it.
Former president, Tom, has both been treated like any other criminal defendant in a criminal case and the way that he has been treated as an exceptional defendant in this case. Look at the speed by which this processing happened. I don't know that either one of us thought we'd be sitting here at this point watching him head back to New Jersey already at 8:08 Eastern time here, much less that he'd have had his mugshot taken. That had been a question mark all day.
Mugshot,
Would we
let's
see
go,
this or
let's
not?
go.
The way that this image is going to be used. I want to bring in Chuck Thomas.
Yeah.
Stay in these live pictures here. I want to ask our control room to keep these up. And Chuck,
all
this
right,
is
Chuck
something
time,
that you
Chuck
will see
time.
likely from both Democrats and Republicans for the next year and a half of this political campaign.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's done Trump has done
they
an
have his
amazing
mic up
job
way
convincing
high.
his supporters that these moments are badges of honor, right? He has wrapped himself in this martyrdom, victimhood, and it's quite remarkable. In some ways,
they weighed him.
Pulled off here.
They weighed him.
It still feels as if, there's still a long way to go. He's made it through the arraignment portion of this, but when we start to get information, when discovery starts to come out, and who knows, maybe he survives that too. But this is gonna. There's going to be every day, every week, there's going to be a reminder. Maybe there'll be a motion by somebody to sever ties. Maybe somebody decides to start cooperating. And it won't even necessarily be in this case. Could be another case. And
yeah,
you
we'll
just
see,
start
Clutch
to
Cargo.
wonder, when is this fatigue with Republicans going to set in? You see it is, the candidates are fatigued from this. We know behind the scenes there's not a lot of faith that somehow Trump can win a general election with all of this hanging over his head. But
the numbers say otherwise, Chucky baby.
That nobody else can survive. But at some point, the straw will break his back too. And I look at all this, I watch what happened last night, you put all this together, and you just got to ask yourself, can he really withstand more of this?
Yeah.
We haven't even started with the actual details of what's going to come out.
No, it's all about getting to the presidency. Like, it doesn't you pile on the indictments, pile on the charges. Does not matter. The only thing that matters is getting across that finish line, because he knows he's free. He's free man if he gets that presidency. So he ain't stopping. He has to keep going for his fucking survival.
East en route, I want to get back to our Gabe Gutierrez, who is live for us in Atlanta. Gabe, just to remind people, and Tom, you know this, the Fulton County Courthouse is not where Donald Trump has been. He has been at the Fulton County Jail. That is a different and separate location. And yet, Gabe, one of the things we've been talking about in the lead up to this surrender by the former president has been the way that police and the security apparatus in that city has been on edge and bracing for whatever may come.
Hi there, Hallie. I'm not sure if that was to me. It's a little tough to hear here, but I can tell you, yes, I'm looking at the same note you are. And this,
they're all gone.
As I mentioned, about a 15, 20-minute drive or so from where I'm standing. And according to my colleague, Blaine Alexander, yes, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office responded to a bomb threat at the courthouse. The sheriff says that there was a canine unit.
Yeah, not everyone's a millionaire, right? So, like, get this out of the way as soon as possible, right? Convict me, whatever.
This is something that certainly local authorities have been very careful. Just a few hours here, another member of our team saw a bomb squad unit go into the Fulton County Jail that is behind me. Not surprising that local authorities will be prepared at several of these major locations to make sure and be very vigilant in case any of these threats were to come in. Again, at this indication, at this time, we don't have any indication that this is
well, from who?
The seriousness of this bomb threat, or if there's anything to it. They're just going to check it out at this point. But
oh, bomb threat, huh? Okay. Shocked there wasn't one sooner, to be honest with you.
The county courthouse, again, not the location where the former president came to surrender just a few moments ago.
Gabe, stand by for us. We have more breaking news. The president now arriving to his private jet there at the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, about to board his plane.
Gabe, shut the fuck up. He's getting on the plane.
Being charged with all of those crimes, again, being accused of interfering in the 2020 election.
He's getting on the plane.
This is fourth indictment so far, if you're keeping count here, along with 18 other co-defendants. They have until tomorrow, because some people still in this case have not turned themselves in. The big piece of news that we've gotten over the last several minutes, besides this bomb threat at the courthouse, of course, we've now confirmed that there is a mugshot
of the former president that was taken at the Fulton County Jail. At some point, maybe possibly in the next couple of hours, we will see that mugshot. We don't know exactly when. We know now that the press, as we're seeing on the right, is assembling now as the president's going to get out. Secret Service on hand there, Fulton County Sheriff's deputies. There was a massive motorcade. The streets of Atlanta were closed down. And this is pretty incredible, Hallie, that he did this entire process in less than an hour.
I don't think that was the expectation for anybody walking into this thing, how quickly this would go. And just to pull back the curtain here so people know what they're looking at. When the former president travels, there is a pool of reporters that goes with him because he is, of course, the former commander-in-chief, and there is a high level of interest and newsworthiness to what he does. Those are the people you just saw scramble into place. We are watching this extremely closely because we expect to now see, for the first time, we'll get him on the plane. He'll get on the plane. He may speak. We don't know, right? But it is going to be the first image we see of him since this surrender, since this booking. As we are watching now this motorcade live, there's a
Do a speech before you get on the plane, Trump. Come on.
Campaign advisors, including Jason Miller, for example. Walt Nada, by the way, his body man, a co-defendant in a separate federal case against the former president.
And the pool is assembled in a manner, and look, we don't know what's going to happen here. He could be listening to his attorneys. He may just jump on the plane. But knowing the former president, you don't know what to predict here. He could come out and he could say something.
We already know he's going to speak later. He's already been previewing an interview next hour over on Newsmax. This is somebody who has, in many ways, according to legal experts, has defied the advice they might give to speak openly and frequently about the cases he's faced, framing it as political persecution against him.
And just reading the tea leaves here and just looking at the images,
Platinum, we're
it
back.
doesn't sound or look like the plane has been
I'm not
turned
sticking
on.
around forever,
that
though.
would lead you to believe, and you have the lights up there as well, which is actually kind of interesting, too, on an active runway. Those lights that have been set up there. You wonder if they've set up for some kind of comments here. Again, we don't know. We're just having both covered former President Trump.
So you've been there. You know what this is like, Tom.
He's willing to do
the
something.
The lights are kind of interesting,
On a tarmac, when the plane is turned on, you just can never hear anybody. Sometimes politicians use that to their advantage. Here it looks like it's not turned on, and it looks like they could possibly be waiting for something. I'd also got to say, Hallie, they set up the pool that way. I guess to get a shot, too. We shouldn't get, too ahead of ourselves. They could just be setting up for the shot outside the car.
I'm the biggest victim on planet Earth. Nobody has ever been as big of a victim as me, Donald J. Trump.
Right? I mean, this is a moment for the former president, one that is making history here. We know that he has just hours ago switched up his attorneys. He now has a new lead attorney.
He fired his lead attorney.
Over to the members of the media who have been assembled.
Here we go.
Let's take it.
Really believe this is a very sad day for America. This should never happen. If you challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that. As you know, you have many people that you've been watching over the years do the same thing, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams or many others. When you have that great freedom to challenge, you have to be able to. Otherwise, you can have very dishonest elections. What
You didn't
is taking
challenge.
place here is a
You
travesty of
attacked.
justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
Super
and everybody
illegal.
knows it. I've never had such support. And that goes with the other ones, too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before. This is their way of campaigning. And this is one instance, but you have three other instances. It's election interference. So I want to thank you for being here. We did nothing wrong at all. And we have every right, every single right, to challenge an election that we think is dishonest, that we think is
He did not just challenge
so thank you
the
all very
election.
much, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Listen to former President Trump wrap up his.
Okay, Clutch Cargo is asking. Okay, I guess Clutch Cargo has the official weight. Do you have the official weight numbers, Clutch Cargo? I'm gonna guess 221 pounds. I'm gonna guess 221 pounds. Everyone, put your guesses in the chat.
Didn't attack anyone. He's been sort of banned, especially on social media, of attacking and I think speaking about his co-defendants.
It's a condition of his bond.
Welcome back, Husky. I'm gonna change my mic back.
Catherine Christian here, who's a former prosecutor, and Catherine, I got to ask you. He says every American has a right to challenge an election. We know that Al Gore challenged the election as well. What did former president do wrong in the indictment, according to the indictment, so our viewers understand why what he said there is not exactly 100% correct?
Well, it's completely not 100% correct because he has not been indicted for his free speech, his right to challenge the election. The way they challenged the election was unlawful. They created false electors who pretended to be Trump's electors when they were really Biden, or they weren't even Biden. They just came out of thin air. They were Trump's electors. They created false, fraudulent certifications for the electors. That's forgery. The fake electors in this charge is impersonating a public official. They intimidated and harassed and threatened election workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, mother-daughter election workers, 2 black women in the South. They were threatened. There's a trio of defendants who were part of this RICO indictment: Kanye West, former publicist, the director of Black Voices for Trump, a pastor.
Calling the Secretary of State.
Yes. They went and intimidated her. Mr. Trump, when he did that perfect call to the Secretary of State, he defamed both of them. He called them professional vote scammers, political operatives. He said that, they stuffed votes into
sorry about that,
suitcase.
Rebel. I was talking to my wife.
And of course, Rudy Giuliani, who is a defamation suit against him, and he just acknowledged that he did defame them. He called them criminals. He said their house would be searched. The voting machines, those voting machines were tampered with. So these are acts that Hillary Clinton and Stacey Abrams did not do.
Hallie, as a Trump watcher over the last decade, what did you notice about the president's sort of demeanor and his comments there? Did he seem almost, he didn't seem like he was that fighting spirit, right?
I think he seemed defiant, and I think that is par for the course for him.
He did seem a little exhausted.
I think you make an important point here about the conditions of his bond. That is serious, and if he violates those conditions, there could, of course, be repercussions against him. And I think it's important to sort of bottom line the conversation that you and Catherine are having. There are mechanisms by which to challenge results of the election that happen in a court of law. Dozens of those legal challenges were losses for the former president and his allies in court. There has been no evidence of widespread fraud in the 2020 election around the country, or specifically in Georgia, where he is facing these charges. Now, he is linked his legal issues to his political future. They are one and the same. There's no 2 lanes, right? We may talk about it like it's 2 different buckets. It's all one big bucket for the former president. And I think that's what you're seeing play out here very vividly. I want to bring in Ken Dilanian, who's been watching this as well. And Ken, the language that the former president chose here in the minutes after he was booked at an active jail in Fulton County is in many ways similar to what we've heard from him in the past 3 indictments.
Yes, but perhaps more restrained, Hallie, because as you said, there's, as a condition of his bond in the Georgia case, he is prohibited from making threats or making statements that could be perceived as threatening to co-defendants, witnesses, victims, or the community at large. And he's prohibited from doing that on social media. His
teeth are coming in.
If he appeared a bit chastened, which I think you guys were perceiving, it may be because this process, this booking was so unlike the other 3 cases through which he's endured kind of a related process. In the other 3 instances, he was in courthouses. He was briefly escorted through the briefing process and then moved on to court. In this case, he went to a county jail, a notorious county jail, not a nice place. And as you're seeing from the reports that we're about to see a mugshot at some point, officials in Fulton County, Atlanta, treated him as best they could like any other defendant. Obviously not to the point where he had to sit for a few hours in the jail, but it's really different from what was done in the federal system. This would, if
So yeah, he got to avoid spending any time in the isolation. Got there, mugshot, fingerprint, weighed, got out immediately. So that was the accommodation that they made for him, but he still had to go through with it all.
In this case, he was treated like every other defendant in many ways, and that must have been a sobering thing to endure for a former president.
Well, let me bring in Charlie Bailey now, one of our legal analysts who, as a former prosecutor, knows Fulton County inside and out, Charlie, and to the point that Ken and others are making here, the speed by which this happened, right? Here we are now, just about 8:30 Eastern time. Donald Trump has now boarded his plane. You're seeing that live look here on the left side of your screen at the Atlanta airport. He is headed back to his home in Bedminster, New Jersey. He's going to land, we expect him to, at Newark Airport. He was in and out, boy, in the blink of an eye, Charlie. And can you give us some insight here into the conversations that may have been happening behind the scenes in order to execute?
How the hell does he know? How the hell does he know?
Well, you know, his attorneys would have been in touch, obviously, with the DA's office. That's how they worked out the consent bond. And then I would expect as well with the sheriff's office, as well as Secret Service been in touch with the sheriff's office so that they could make it efficient. Because, you know, the jail didn't want him there that long either. You know, once it's known that someone's not going to be booked in and staying in the jail's got to operate. You know, they've got folks that they've got to keep safe and keep in that jail. And the longer Donald Trump was in there, the more
Prigozhin, you
difficult
piece
that
of
job
shit.
is. So they were incentivized to make this efficient and do the processing of the warrant, get the biographical information done, and then get him out. So they both had incentives to speed this along.
Charlie, I do want to ask you about what I think was maybe the most interesting legal development today. And this was the former president muscling up, right? Bringing in a hometown boy, somebody from the area, a very high-profile defense attorney. I think we have a graphic with some of the people that he's also defended here. Stephen Sadow is his new defense attorney, the lead in this case. He's defended people like
How does he keep
Usher,
finding these
Rick Ross,
people?
T.I., Gunna. And I bring this up because he has taken
defended
on
all
your
the
former
rappers.
employer, the Fulton County Prosecutor's Office, and he's beaten your office, right? He's gotten his clients off. So this move by former President Trump, who has deep pockets, right? What does this mean to you? And do the prosecutors there in Fulton
just
County
gets
now
better
have to
and
bring
better.
their best game forward and put their best foot forward as they try this case?
Well,
Prigozhin's one of the worst human beings on planet Earth, and supporting him just says, yeah, I agree with horrible human beings. I'm a piece of shit. I believe in Wagner and their atrocious mercenary group. I mean, you're judging me on being well-adjusted while putting your support behind a fucking one of the most brutal and disgusting mercenary groups on planet Earth. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you forever.
Strategy that Sadow was more on board with. But
Sadow also has a lot of experience with RICO, from what I understand as well, with RICO cases.
He has, yes. He's defended several people on RICO, but I don't think, I'll say this. Fonnie Willis and her team are also extremely experienced when it comes to RICO, and they would have had this case prepared to execute at the highest level, regardless of which attorney is on the other side. And ultimately, what's going to matter is the evidence at trial. You know, attorneys can bluster and they can put out statements, prosecutors and criminal defense attorneys. But when the rubber meets the road, what do you have in terms of evidence? What do you have in terms of witnesses? That's what's going to make the impression upon this jury and whether they find Donald Trump guilty or not guilty.
Charlie, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but every time we've been covering these indictments, the great Danny Savalos, who's our TV news legal analyst, will always remind our viewers that federal prosecutors win about 90% of the cases they bring, right? So they have an incredible track record. What's the sort of the record for Fulton County Prosecutor's Office? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I mean, it has hovered right around 90%, sometimes a little bit over, sometimes a little bit under, I think for about the last 20 years. And I think during Fonnie's tenure, which has been, I guess, the last 2.5 years, it's right over 90%. That's data I think I got about a couple of months ago. So it's about the same. And
so true, Lenny. So true.
Fonnie herself is, of course, as you may know, very experienced in RICO cases. And
there he goes, folks.
On the APS,
Plane's already leaving the fucking tarmac.
Cheating case, which took place back about 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And that was an indictment that started out with 34 individuals.
Looks like, folks.
By the time it got to trial, there were 13.
You know, that's what being loaded looks like.
It was the longest criminal trial in the history of the state and one of the longest in the history of the country. So they know what they're doing in building out these indictments, and that office has a strong track record on getting convictions.
You are looking here live at the former president's plane taxiing now down the runway at the Atlanta airport. He is getting ready to head back to Newark, New Jersey, and then on to his home in Bedminster after surrendering, getting arrested, getting booked, getting processed on the fourth indictment that he has faced now in the last 5 months. I want to bring in NBC News legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Carol Lam. So, Carol, the next piece of the puzzle here, the next thing that will happen will be an arraignment for the former president. Remember, this was the booking and processing. This was not the arraignment. Sometimes they happen roughly at the same time on the same day. That's not the case here. Is it possible that the former president could have his appearance at his arraignment in roughly 2 weeks waived? Could it happen virtually under the processes in Georgia? What can you tell us as we look at the live shot here of that plane getting ready to take off?
Yeah, I think that's quite possible. I think it's possible that now that the booking and the processing has taken place, where they actually do have to have his photograph and they have to have his fingerprints, he actually has to be there in person. It is quite possible that the Georgia rules allow for remote appearances for arraignment, which are usually pretty perfunctory, unless there's going to be some sort of argument there about motions that he wants to file or such. There really isn't that much need for him to appear in person. So I think that's given particularly his schedule with respect to the election, I think that's quite likely to happen.
Carol, we thank you for your analysis. Stand by for us. I do want to bring in someone who knows the president very well, someone who has worked for him in the White House. Hogan Gidley joins us live now. Hogan, I know you've been following all the developments over the last few hours. We just saw the president come out. We just got a note from our Kristen Welker that he is defiant. That is his mood. But I got to ask you, the president has been through so much. This is somebody who has gone bankrupt. He's gone through divorces. He's had his sex life put out on newspapers all over the world. Oh, yeah. He's won elections. He's lost elections. But he's never, ever had to take a mugshot. And now he's going to have that mugshot put out all over the world. What do you think that process is like for him, honestly? What do you think is going through his head right now? Because at least he didn't appear to be.
Thank you so much. I mean, does anyone fucking care, bruh? All right, let's see what's going on over here. Jesus Christ. What do you think he's thinking?
There's two things going on there. One is this defense that I think we're going to see that there is no criminal intent in both the federal case in D.C. and this one because he really believed that the election was stolen. But I also think it's potentially trying to dupe and confuse voters. Because let's be clear here, the allegations aren't that he just in good faith tried to challenge the election results. The allegations are that there were slates of fake electors. There were lies on paper that were submitted to courts, submitted to secretaries of state, that there were election workers that were harassed, that there were voting machines that might have been tampered with, not all by Donald Trump, but in this broader enterprise. And so, in a way, the only election interference that's on the table, the only potential evidence of election interference that's on the table is by Donald Trump, not by the people and the many thousands of Americans that came out to support the 2020 election and to run the election at the local level. That's really how this goes. They're not the ones that committed election interference. It's actually across these two cases, the two relating to January 6th, it's Donald Trump and the people around him. And so this is, a psychologist would say this is classic gaslighting, right? You punch someone in the face and say, look what you did to my hand. It's kind of creating this impression, oh, let's go back to election interference. It was a rigged election, when actually that's what these cases are about, that there was an attempt by Donald Trump and others to actually rig or distort or change the election results. And that's really, really very serious for American democracy. And that's why I think these cases, regardless of where you are politically, have to move forward. So I think it's a very deft political move on the part of the president, in addition to setting up this defense that it was empty, empty heart, empty mind. I was just doing my best to do my duty as president.
And just to mention some of those false claims, the former president claimed there were 5,000 dead voters. He seems to be obsessed with Georgia, obsessed with a suitcase full of ballots, saying that those existed, obsessed with poll workers, as you mentioned earlier, mother and daughter who were working
2 million mules,
local community. They were targeted and harassed. And
all them dumb.
After hearing the former president just moments ago say the election was stolen, he did nothing wrong, like you said, just kind of living in this deaf world. What do you think about his co-defendants? Do you think they're on board, that they believe the same claims, the same thing that we just heard him say a few moments ago?
Yeah,
listen, just think about
they believe what they're told to believe.
Whose lives are shattered and destroyed by this. Not
rhinos.
just
the people that were on
You mean
January
the
6th, the
rhinos
Capitol police
that stood in
officers,
Trump's way?
several of whom died or died by suicide afterwards. There was actually a MAGA supporter that perished that day. There were many people that had serious physical, long-term, and psychological injuries. Then you have these various, co-defendants, the alleged co-conspirators in the January 6th case. Their lives, their families, their financial situation, their futures,
ladies and gentlemen,
severely impacted. In addition to not just the two people that are named or identified as being harassed, but their harassment against poll workers across the country. Again, regular citizens, regular Americans, our friends and our neighbors. So Donald Trump is no victim here, and I think the narrative sometimes gets distorted.
He's the king
when this
victim.
has been a
He's the king of all
victims. Proportions for
He's
a
the
lot
most
of well-meaning
victimized
Americans.
victim that's ever been a victim.
About RICO, and let's break that down for folks that may not be familiar with it. What is RICO, and how is it different from the three conspiracy charges in the federal January 6th case?
Yeah, so there's, I think, three tiers of these kinds of crimes. One is, you sort of, again, punch someone in the face. You did the crime. That would be like a basic assault. We don't see that here. Then you might have a conspiracy, which is the next level, and there are 3 counts in the January 6th case. That's a meeting of the minds. 2 people agreeing to violate a law, and then taking a step in furtherance of that agreement. You don't actually have to cross
free speech right to ask other people to break the law.
RICO is even more broad if you were to zoom out into the stars, right? And you don't have to have a big agreement between all these 19 people to sit down and say, let's take steps. Like a typical conspiracy. Let's agree
to plan a criminal
thwart the outcome of the
conspiracy.
2020 election.
It's my free speech
Instead,
right.
you have to have basically various acts in tandem within a certain period of time, and the prosecutors have to show there's an enterprise that is almost like a gang or like typically a mafia type situation where they're all working in tandem towards a common goal.
Oh,
so you could be swept up in a RICO charge based on someone else's conduct, even if you didn't sit and agree to do it. So it's probably harder to defend.
He's already on the plane out of here, Woke Patriot. We're just waiting on the mugshot.
But it's a sweeping charge, and it's one that allows the government to capture many people in this larger story of a common enterprise or a common idea. That's the big difference. Whereas in the January 6th, you actually have to show an agreement between the people that are named in the complaint, in the criminal complaint.
Speaking of his comments, the former president's comments before he boarded that plane, we were speaking of it possibly violating the bond or not. What about Trump's free speech argument?
Yeah.
Is this a case where
it's free speech to plan a criminal conspiracy?
To speak freely
God.
under the First Amendment?
We are going to see that, I think, in a motion to dismiss one or both of these cases relating to January 6th, the idea being it was free speech. We heard this after January 6th about his speech on the Mall. That speech on the Mall didn't make its way into either of these indictments, and I just have to refer to former Attorney General Bill Barr, who says every conspiracy involves speech. There are lots of crimes. Bribery, which is named in the Constitution as a basis for impeaching a president, that involves speech. So the First Amendment doesn't allow you to speak in a way that leads to a crime. We will hear that again. We can see talking points in the campaign trail. We can see things on social media. People can think, Mike.
Yeah! Let's see that big, beautiful orange face. Full screen. Come on. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I got a baby in my hand. There it is, boys. There it is. There it fucking is. Woo! Woo! He looking like a happy camper. He looking like $1 million. There it is, folks. There it is. First mugshot for a U.S. president. There it fucking is. Wow. He does look like a fucking mobster. He does. Just look at that shit. Woo! Woo! That's all I got to say to that, man. A little Ric Flair. Woo! You know what I'm talking about? Oh, my God.
There it is. All right, let's see the reaction on the news. Let's see the reaction on the news here. Hold on. Get it over at NBC. They're going to give this one to Chuck Todd. I guarantee you they're going to cut over to Chuck Todd.
One of the 19 co-defendants who is still in.
All right, they're going to give this one. I knew it wasn't going to be no 2 hours.
He did not come up with
I knew it wasn't going to be no 2 hours.
And, you know, in the last-minute fundraising pitch over text message and email here this evening, Donald Trump said, I'm going in to be arrested, and was asking for donations. 90% of that donation, it actually goes to his 2024 campaign.
There it is.
But 10%
there it is,
of that goes to that organization,
hold on,
that PAC, which helps
screen.
with the legal expenses. But Donald Trump is looking at 4 different trials ahead of him here that are going to undoubtedly be expensive. And there's serious questions about the actual extent to which funds are available for others. But you know, the likes of Jenna Ellis, who is that lawyer that you were mentioning, who used to be very much of a Donald Trump ally, she is actively
already being printed on a
where the financial support is, because so many of these defendants, they note that they were acting on behalf of Donald Trump.
Looking at it.
Right now, the man that they contend that they were acting on behalf of is done very little to support them.
There it is.
Legal peril.
Vaughn, stand by for us. Ryan Nobles covers Capitol Hill for us. Ryan, we know so many in the Republican caucus there have stood by former President Trump.
Are they still verifying it? The media is still verifying it?
We also know now that there's some movement in the House with investigations and Fani Willis as well.
Oh, they're still filling time.
And there's no doubt, no coincidence
still filling
at all
time.
that we saw the
They're going to give it to Chuck.
Committee this morning send a
This is
letter
live, folks. This is live. This is as live as it gets.
And they also want to know about any federal funding that is involved in this prosecution.
I can't stop looking at it, dude.
And this follows the exact same playbook
Holy
that we saw the Judiciary Committee use when Donald Trump was charged in Manhattan. They did a similar letter and request to the district attorney there, Alvin Bragg, and they say that they're continuing their investigation into the investigation, if you will. And it is in many ways just an effort by House Republicans to provide a level of cover for the former president and show that he has some support here at the federal level, and you know, at the very least, try and make the life of Fani Willis that much more difficult as she attempts to put together this very complex
This could be fake, guys. We could be getting a big rickroll.
The things they're asking for information about, none of it is necessarily.
Are we getting rickrolled here, boys?
To have communications with federal prosecutors. There's no law prohibiting that. And she has said repeatedly that they've not coordinated.
I'm surprised they haven't cut. They haven't cut over yet.
Are two separate and independent investigations. But nonetheless, this is the playbook for House Republicans, and it wasn't a surprise to see it happen today.
We are watching now the former president's plane.
That's from CNN? Okay.
8:41 Eastern
Thank you,
time.
Rebel.
A whirlwind, roughly 90 minutes for him on the ground in the state of Georgia, a state where he is facing now 13 charges under this racketeering law that's typically reserved for mafia bosses. As you see the plane flying off, obviously our coverage here
they love
from our
mentioning
NBC
that part.
Station, from our affiliate, showing the former president's plane heading back. He has gotten support, not just from allies on Capitol Hill, but allies, Ryan, and I'll bring Vaughn Hilliard into this conversation as well, who are traveling with him to be, in effect, surrogates for him. We saw, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene in Atlanta, outside the jail, speaking with members of our team, other reporters, defending the former president. That is something, Ryan, that he wants to see. He wants his loyalists out there speaking on his behalf.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Hallie. And we saw Marjorie Taylor Greene in the last 20 minutes or so tweet a fake version of the mugshot that we expect to see of President Trump in the next 24 hours or so, but with herself in the frame as a way to show solidarity with the former president, to show that she is in this fight with him, that she believes that his prosecution is unjust. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, an example of someone who is as loyal to the former president in the House of Representatives as anyone. Someone else who is very supportive of him as well is the fourth-ranking member in the Republican conference, and that's Elise Stefanik, who put out a statement not too long ago, very critical of the Fani Willis and the district attorney's office, saying that it was nothing more than a political prosecution. I should point out, though, Hallie, you know, this is the fourth time we've all gone through this. In the previous 3 incarnations or versions of these indictments, We've seen the statements and the tweets of support from Republicans in both the House and Senate roll in at a much faster clip than we're seeing here tonight. There does seem to be a little bit of lag between their responses than what we saw the previous 3 times around. And for instance, the first couple of times around, the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was quick to put out a statement, not only supporting the former president, but then also attacking the Justice Department's investigation into the current president's son, Hunter Biden. That hasn't happened yet. That's not to say it won't, but I'm just saying in terms of the timing.
What is taking so long? Come on, Chuck.
There could be some fatigue there. I mean, that is possible. Ryan, stand by for us. I do want to bring in a special guest, Nick Ackerman. He was a former Watergate prosecutor. He's an expert in RICO. Nick, I know you probably combed through the indictment there in Georgia, and I want to ask you, because even rivals like Governor Chris Christie have said that this is overreach.
Come on, I don't need an interview with Abe Vigoda, dude. Okay, what the fuck, man? Come on, media. Are you kidding me? How am I this? Am I 5 to 10 minutes ahead of the fucking media because one of my awesome chatters just happened to see this on CNN? Come on, man. Come on, dude. Where you at? They must be verifying it. That's what's going on, man. That has to be what's going on. Fucking Abe Vigoda over here.
Of his campaign. It has become a central slogan when you hear him say, I am being indicted for you. They are coming after me because they want to come after you, and I stand up for you. So the indictments and the mugshot that I'm sure we will see soon is something that we can expect to be brought in. And as I said earlier, I did ask one of those people close to the former president what they expect to make of the mugshot. How are they going to handle it? And the answer was very point blank, very blunt, make money off of it, Stephanie.
Oh, definitely.
And we heard from the former president before he boarded his plane saying kind of the standard lines that we've heard him say before, that the 2020 election was rigged. He thanked his supporters, saying he did nothing wrong. How do you think that helps him or hurts him? It seems as though he's not refraining from saying those statements, but instead repeating those same lines. How does this help his campaign?
Is that his number?
I think, quite frankly, what we have seen with every single indictment is that the former president has gone up in the polls, and that is something that his campaign loves to tout over and over again, because, like I said, they make this part of their campaign. So publicly, they say that it is making him stronger in the polls, and it is something that they are using to make money because they are, quite frankly, running out of money. But I think what we started to see last night, at least at the debate that the former president did not attend, is some of the candidates starting to say we need to move past 2020 because, and you heard John Santucci say it earlier, that the former president is stuck in 2020, and many of the candidates said this is not a winning strategy for any Republican trying to take back the White House in 24 to be stuck in 2020, because what we need to be thinking about, these candidates said, is thinking about 2024. So clearly something that at least some of the other candidates would love to move beyond, because it is just a losing strategy, as they say, across the board.
Sorry, folks, just talking to beautiful wife here.
Absolutely, and some of those candidates still saying that they would support
Inmate
him.
number PO11 35809.
Speaking of John Santucci, want to bring him back in. Former President Trump reacted to his booking at the Fulton County Jail, calling it a sad day, and as we mentioned earlier, John, also saying that it was a
Okay. I know they're going to switch it over to Chuck. I know they're going to give this to Chuck.
No, because there's going to be a voir dire.
So we got to watch this.
You'd be surprised how many people are absolutely clueless about what's going on. Probably the best example of that was the foreperson of the special grand jury. I mean, she candidly admitted when she talked to the press that she had no idea about any of these allegations, no idea about what they were investigating, and she bent over backwards to actually try and look at everything in an objective way. And she said that. And that's what you find with most
Rebel
jurors.
Phoenix, that's such a great
I've been
idea.
in high-profile cases before in jury selection, and it never ceases
Your
to
mom
amaze
is brilliant.
me how many people don't follow some of these things like you think that they might, or see the publicity that you think that they might. And so the real question comes down to every person who serves on that jury.
How am I scooping the fucking
you be
media right now,
fair
dude?
and
This is
impartial?
awesome.
Nick, we got a bit of breaking news.
Here we go. Give it to Chuck.
We have gotten now the Donald Trump mugshot as obtained from the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Again, there's some fakes that have been circulating out there. This is the real deal, as reported from our Blaine Alexander. Full disclosure, it takes us like 10 seconds to turn it around and actually get it on television.
And the system is also crashing. We should report the Fulton County system.
The search system, apparently, because there's been such high interest in this. We're going to pull up Gabe Gutierrez, who's been live for us here from Atlanta. And the second we can show you this mugshot, we will. But this answers, obviously, a critical question that we've had.
They don't even have it uploaded into their system.
On these charges, which is,
in the back. Go.
And now we know what it looks like. I'm going to describe it to you. You're going to see it in literally 5 seconds. We are working to pull this up. He's
This is hilarious. What a
he is, as we talked about before, Tom, he is not smiling in this. And this is an image that is already, one would imagine, set to ricochet around the world. This is somebody who has global name recognition from his time in the White House.
I know, Clutch Cargo. I totally scooped
NBC,
dude. Yes.
And again,
thank you, Rebel Phoenix.
We haven't seen cameras at arraignments.
Thank you, Rebel Phoenix.
That inside look at these processes. We've just seen court sketches. This is now different. I'm about 8 seconds away from flipping my laptop to show you what this mugshot looks like. But I want to get to Gabe Gutierrez, Tom, and your thoughts too on this significant.
Well, Gabe, Gabe, here it is. I have it right here. This is the mugshot we've been talking about. This is the first time we have ever seen a current president, a former president with a criminal mugshot. Former President Donald Trump, charged with 13 crimes in Fulton County, Georgia.
There it is,
here is the mugshot. We've seen lots of images of Donald Trump over the years.
Oh, this feels
we have
so
never,
good.
ever
Justice.
seen anything like this.
Is this what justice feels like? I need
just wanted to take a moment
nap.
here as you're taking this in. And Gabe Gutierrez, I think you probably are able to see it here.
Travesty of justice.
That from this minute on will be not just a legal issue for the former president, but a political one. And I'm saying on both sides of the aisle here, Gabe.
Get him.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Hallie. And you just spoke with the Donald Trump surrogate saying that, Democrats will point to this and look at the image in front of you and say that a person in this position should not be president of the United States. However,
he's a man. He's not a king.
Today, and they say this
he's a citizen.
As they see it, of a weaponization of the legal system in this country. And as you see it right there, it is incredible to look at.
Exactly what needs to happen with criminals.
Of the United States.
100%.
Multiple felony counts, sitting for a mugshot, something that happens
criminals
every day
need to go to jail
around the clock. There will be more defendants that go through this process in the coming hours. There will be more that do it in the coming days and weeks. But never has there been a defendant
we got it,
quite
dude.
like
We
this
fucking got it.
The enormity of this. It should not be glossed over, as you guys haven't.
Mugshot.
Mugshot. I can tell you, I did see the president back in New York. Still, photographers were allowed in for a very brief time to capture the image of Mr. Trump when he was in that courtroom up in New York. However, in federal court in Miami, but never has he had a mugshot taken.
Hey, Gabe.
This is happening very quickly. Go ahead, Tom.
Gabe, I don't know if there's still supporters there, if there's still Trump supporters there. I would love if you could possibly show them the image to get their reaction. They may have peeled away by now, but I'm just sort of interested to see, because maybe people haven't seen this image just yet. If you get it, come back to us. Hallie, as we were looking at this image, I was thinking, here you have the most powerful person at one point in the world, and today in Fulton County, he was treated as a common criminal.
He's just like any of these other alleged criminals, these defendants here. And part of that is one of the questions that I think we have, and Catherine is joining us here, and I would wonder about this, right? He did not have his mugshot taken in these other 3 cases that he had faced. Largely, the speculation was because he is so recognizable. Everybody knows what Donald Trump looks like. That's not an exaggeration here. Why, in this instance, do you suspect that they moved forward with this particular piece of the booking procedure?
Well, I think it was very important. The sheriff in this case said, we're going to take his mugshot because we do it for everyone. So in many ways, that's a statement that's equal justice under the law. And maybe he should have had it taken.
Look, I'm not going to be hyperbolic here. I'm not going to be like, this changes everything. Okay? But this is a fucking sliver of hope for America, for the rule of law. We got all these jokers. We just saw them last night up on stage, proudly saying how they're going to destroy America, wearing it like a badge of honor. It's a little shred of hope. It really is. Just a little bit. He's not a fucking king. He's not a fucking king.
This is somebody you worked for. This is somebody you believed in. This is somebody who, for the rest of your life, your name will be associated with him. It's somebody who you still have a relationship with. Hogan, when you see this mugshot, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think I was hoping he would smile. He didn't. I think, as I said in the previous segment, it looks like this is going to be something that will be on every literal coffee mug, on every T-shirt. They'll probably mark it and brand it and use it to raise money off of. It is a symbol to the right of the weaponization of government against the chief political rival of the sitting president of the United States. It will be used by the left to say, how could you support somebody who has been indicted and here's his mugshot? So I understand the gravity of the.
Can we take 10 minutes to celebrate, man? They made sure the party pooper was like literally first one on the fucking air. Thanks a lot, bud. Yeah, we know, bud. We know.
It remains to be seen. There are two battles here.
Yeah,
one legal and one political. The legal will play itself out in due time. The political one seems more immediate. And right now, we've seen no indication that any of these indictments have really gone to hurt Donald Trump in the Republican nominating process. Will this photo change it? I don't think so. In fact, I think it'll embolden and anger a lot more people who may or may not have been sitting on the fence or looking at other candidates in this race. I think it's going to make people pretty angry.
We are already seeing in the last 30
off-world. I mean that we all know why. It's because Republicans don't really believe in the things that they say. They say they're for less government, then they make the Homeland Security Department, and they say that they want government out of our lives, and then they destroy Roe v. Wade. You know, they talk about bills where they can inspect our children's genitals, and then they actively ban books in schools. They don't believe the things that they say. That's the fundamental issue. They're hucksters, grifters, straight up nihilists. And they're incredibly dangerous to the country if we allow them to be in charge.
It is proof positive that what Trump tried to do and thought he could get away with in Georgia in making people's votes
fucking money shot
count, he is not able to do without meeting the shred of justice that is available. But with that being said, I think that this is also, to a point Hogan made earlier, it's not going to move any Republicans. They're going to stand beside him like they always have, no matter what the indictments or the charges happen to be. But for Democrats, it is more of a, this isn't presidential. This is not someone who should be the.
This would not happen if in a country where the rule of law was not respected at all, right? Even some major countries, this would not happen, right? This would never happen in Japan, for example, right? The emperor commits a crime, he gets a mugshot, ain't happening, right? This shows evolution. This shows enlightenment. God damn it, man! This is what it's all about. Okay? No gods, no kings, only men. This is what it's all about. Oh, yeah, give it to me.
For the first time, what's going through your head?
I think it's a shame that we have a party that thinks it's all right to arrest a political opponent.
Wow.
Even if there were charges, all politicians are guilty of several charges.
What aboutism?
I think if the Americans knew the truth of how guilty all the politicians were, there wouldn't be as much attention as there would be other people.
Yeah,
I'm really low on time, but I just want to get your reaction.
How about we arrest all criminals?
Up there on that screen, what goes through your head?
It looks like an album cover for like a
Really cool.
Out of jail album cover.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for talking. Tom,
Wow.
This is an album cover, something that the Trump campaign will certainly use this image to raise.
Criminals are cool. Supporting criminals, really awesome, guys. So I'm just, rule of law, fuck it, huh? Well, I bet the evangelicals are going to love that shit.
Our thanks to you, our thanks to our entire team of reporters and correspondents
there it is.
covering every angle of this historic night as we are now, for the first time, seeing a mugshot of a former president of the United States.
We thank you for watching our special coverage of Donald Trump's fourth arrest in 5 months. You're watching NBC News Now. Don't go anywhere. Special edition of Top Story starts right now.
So there it is, folks. There you go. There it fucking is. A sliver of hope, a shred of hope in this dismal, nihilistic time.
right, of incredibly cynical politics, right? Because, I mean, you heard it there. Yeah, I mean, he might have committed crimes, but so do other politicians. So why can't we treat him with kid gloves and treat him special? And that's, to them, that's a cogent argument. That's good. Yep, lock it up. There you go. Whataboutism? That's a perfect, solid argument. That's all I need to hear, right? Because it's like, oh, they don't want to look into it. They don't want to know it's a bad argument. They don't want any part of that. They want the delusion. They want the lie, right? Oh, he's cool. I think it's so sad that, you know, the weaponization of Justice Department. And you know what I think we should do? I think that when Trump wins, he should install a biased DOJ that immediately goes after all of his political opponents. Sir, isn't that weaponization of the Justice Department? No, because we're doing it. So look, the hypocrites are always going to be hypocrites, dude. We could be, you know, on a fucking sinking ship, and they're like, I don't know, man, that water, I don't know, dude. It doesn't seem like it's sinking to me, right? So okay, let me just reiterate this, and then I'll say goodbye. The only way to stop this, because look, if the elections were happening right now, 3 weeks ago there was a poll, Joe Biden versus Trump. So I haven't seen a modern poll. Maybe things are different after this mugshot situation. Maybe, maybe not. Okay? But 3 weeks ago, Biden versus Trump, 43%, 43%. They're neck and neck if the election was happening 3 weeks ago. Okay? Do you think that if a Republican gets in charge, he's going to just work out that 4 years, and then if he loses the election, he's going to step down? I do not think so. I do not think so. So, yeah, maybe if we're lucky, we'll get another 4 years of Biden. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get another Democrat after Biden. But eventually, we will have to deal with this fascistic, shameless party that is eager to change our laws, to put them in power permanently. We have to employ my simple 3-step program, folks. It is this simple to create political change. Step 1, inform yourself. You're doing it right now. Step 2, join a progressive political organization. Put your name down on the paper. I'm going to march. I'm going to donate. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do something. And hey, maybe marching isn't your thing. Maybe activism isn't your thing. Join a union. Run for office. Show up to that school board meeting or that state, you know, that city council meeting. Do something. Because you got to put in the work. Step 3, put in the work. All right? The fascists are putting in the work straight up. Steve Bannon, fucking TPUSA, what the fuck's his name? I keep wanting to call him Kirk Cameron. Charlie Kirk. They're hard at work to destroy democracy. And if we are apathetic, if we don't show up, if we don't meet them, and if we don't insist on their crimes being tried and, you know, put in a court of law and, you know, treated like everyone else, if we don't insist on that, if we let it slide, they will destroy our country. They're telling us. I have a clip right now of some right-wing blogger or, you know, podcasters or whatever talking about, oh, you know, people, you know, when we say we want fascism, people think we're kidding. We're not kidding. We want fascism. We want it really bad. Right? And maybe those guys are the extreme on the limits, but they're speaking to a narrative that is running through this whole right-wing, you know, system, whatever you want to call it. All right, folks. Thank you so much for coming here. Big props to Lenny. My #1 Garbage Fuel Award of the motherfucking day is going to go to Rebel Phoenix. Thank you so much, Rebel Phoenix, for your awesome link to the Trump mugshot. There it is, folks. One more look at it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's justice. It's a sliver of hope. All right? Yes, let's be cynical, but let's be cynical later. Enjoy it. Just enjoy it tonight. Treat yourself. Enjoy it tonight. It doesn't fix everything, folks, but it's something. It's something. Big props to Homeless Bag, Lenny, Rebel Phoenix, Clutch Cargo, Off-World Colonist. Thank you for that follow, by the way. All you lurkers Thank you so much. Butter Knives, thank you for stepping in. Thank you so much for coming back. Big props to your boy Davey. Thank you so much, Davey. Loved it. It's just woke patriot. Thank you so much for coming in. I can't believe I feel like I won an award, man. I tell you, it's just, I feel great. iPlatinum, thank you for coming in, iPlatinum. Husky Canvas, thank you so much, Husky Canvas, for coming in. Once again, all you lurkers, very much appreciate it. You guys rock. Chrono Stampede, make sure you're subscribing to Chrono Stampede's stream and checking out Lenny's YouTube channel, Accidents Waiting to Happen, folks. Lovely stuff. That's it. Goddamn, there it is, boys. There it is. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's really, there it is, right? I just can't believe it. That's Trump's mugshot. There we go, boys. There we go. Yeah, it's going to be nonstop memes. Thank you, Star Troopian. Sorry you're missing out right at the end. Tyler the Goat, thank you for coming in. It's a little bit of hope. I'll take it. Thank you for following. It's a little bit of hope. Thank you again for following, Tyler the Goat. But it's a little bit of hope. I'll take it. I will take it, sir. Thank you. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to Ukrainian democracy. And once again, I'm Abandoned Nihilism. This is the News Underground. We scooped NBC, folks. We scooped them. We scooped NBC because we don't verify anything. we don't check it all. We just throw that shit up there. All right, everybody. Thank you. We got him. We got him. We got him. We got him. Yes.